Tune those fiddles, floss that tooth, and uncork that moonshine. The Lovecraft Country Time Jamboree is back. Every week I'll be taking a look at each episode from the biggest horror series of 2020 as it drops. There'll be spoilers from here on out, but I'll try to keep them on the minimal. So there you go. You've been warned. Let's get to it.
Young Sagat.
Welcome back to ML Miller Frights, a part of the Kings of Horror Network. I'm ML Miller. While you might be watching this video on the Kings of Horror Network, I urge you to click over to my ML Miller Frights page and give it a like, share with your buddies across the electronic superhighway, click subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. Please get the word out to new folks so we can make the Kings of Horror Network and ML Miller Frights bigger and better. If you're in the Chicago area and love horror, you have no excuse not to head out to the Chi-Town Movies Drive-In for the Music Box of Horrors. Every night in October for 31 Nights of Horror, there will be late shows Sunday through Thursday and double features every Friday and Saturday night. Every weekend is themed, Grindhouse Fridays, Rip-Off Saturdays, and Sequel Sundays. Tonight they're playing Ryan Spindell's new anthology, The Mortuary Collection. This one is premiering on Shudder later in the week, and look for my review of this highly anticipated anthology later in the week as well. Look below for a link to the schedule, where to get tickets, and directions to this awesome horror event. Lovecraft Country Season 1, Episode 9 is entitled Rewind 1921. It's streaming on HBO and HBO Max. It's created by Misha Green, Jordan Peele, and J.J. Abrams, and this one is directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff. Strap in, this is a long one. Rewind 1921 is the 9th episode of the Lovecraft Country series. It's one focusing on the main plot, so of course there are some big lulls punctuated by multiple scenes of screaming at each other and then stomping away. The interesting folk, Ruby, Wunmi Mosaku, Hippolyta, Ingenue Ellis, Dee, Jada Harris, and Christine, Abby Lee, are all given very little to do in this episode. Instead, this is basically a build-up episode designed to lead to a big confrontation in next week's final episode. That doesn't mean nothing occurred in this episode, it's just that I've really grown to loathe the main three characters. Tick, Jonathan Majors, has one dramatic move, which is scrunching up his face like a cat's asshole, and it's getting old. Letty, Journey Smollett, who instead of running and screaming in this episode, she walks and stares at the camera while the cool guys don't look at explosions, theme song plays in the background. And Montrose, Michael Kenneth Williams, mumbles and cries again. Just in case you missed HBO's Watchmen series, this episode goes back to Tulsa during the riots in 1921. The episode does a good job of showing the horrifying real-world events that occurred in that racially turbulent time. In order to save Dee's soul, Christine instructs Tick, Letty, and Montrose to go back in time and find the Book of Names. Cue Hippolyta to simply walk right in off the street. Because there are only so many minutes in this episode and we need at least 2 musical interludes, we really don't get much reaction from the crew that Hippolyta is alive, or much from Hippolyta that her daughter is close to death. Instead, Hippolyta immediately leaves her possessed daughter with a creepy dead arm to return to the observatory so she can rig the orrery to send the crew back in time. Hippolyta explains to the cheap seats that she can basically do anything now. She's been to the future, and she even has convenient USB ports in her wrists, which help open the portal and send Letty, Tick, and Montrose back to seconds before the riots begin. My question is, why? Why is this the exact moment they have to go back to? The book seems to have been sitting in great-grandmama's cabinet for quite some time. Why send the crew back to this specific time, and not a night when everyone is sleeping or away on vacation, or any time the entire town is not taking part in a life-and-death racial battle? The reason is clear, and it's one I've been touting for a while now. Lovecraft Country is not about telling a sensible, clear, and maybe even entertaining story. It's all about the message. Setting the time trip to occur just before the riots once again continues to shove racial themes right down our throats. I don't mind the themes being addressed, I think they need to be. But at least have the story leading up to it make sense. I'm not talking about making sense of the riots, but making sense of why the characters have to be there at that exact time. I love it that this series is occasionally addressing more subtler racial themes in the RWBY segments. It's not a simple black versus white issue, but deeper, more interesting, and more complicated issues about interracial relations, a search for black identity, and class warfare that are much more interesting and tell truly innovative stories that really haven't been told before. When things are simplified to black versus white, I feel it's simply spoon-feeding the masses what they want or need instead of telling stories. Again, the message is more important than story in Lovecraft Country. A bigger issue is the use of magic itself. Magic really only works in fiction if the limitations and rules are explained. Honestly, other than being reminded that we need the book every 5 minutes like we did in this episode, I really don't know why. I guess they're fighting for Dee's corrupted soul and Christina has ulterior motives for it, but because we are following Tick, Letty, and Montrose, 3 characters who don't seem to know anything about magic, it's all just magic thinking in the end. There's no rules, no limits. It's just magic that works and fixes the problem because magic. There are no real stakes leading up to this final episode because we all know magic is going to be the cure-all. There's a lot of anticipation in the exasperated performances in this episode, but because in the beginning, death is something that can be reversed, there really doesn't feel like there are any consequences in this series. I'm looking forward to the final episode, but I honestly am not sure why. Usually by this time, the next to last episode gives us a clue leading up to a big final battle. But this series has been so scattershot, I really have no idea what we're leading up to. At times, the cinematography is done well. The poetry slam with Letty slow walking to the portal while Hippolyta is being torn apart on the other side was powerful, but while Letty seems to bust out in a full sprint in every episode, she sure picked a great time to powerfully stroll towards the camera. But this looks powerful, so it doesn't matter to the rest of the story. I've come to the conclusion that I really just don't like this series. If you watch these videos, that wasn't the case at the beginning. I was hopeful. I was eager to be entertained. I was really looking forward to seeing the wild sights and twists and turns. But apart from Gia's episode, Ruby's body swapping episode, and maybe the 3rd episode with the haunted house, the main story of Lovecraft Country has been a complete mess. Montrose slit the throat of a trans Native American person because he was conflicted about his own sexuality, and was an alcoholic who beat his kid. Tick murdered innocent people in the military for simply having different beliefs than him and blamed it on following orders. Letty conned money out of her sister for years, and once she got knocked up by Tick, her motivation has been all over the place. These are not nice people, and while I don't mind following flawed heroes, none of them are following redemption arcs. They're just sweeping their sins under the carpet because they're on a good path now. If you're liking this series, that's cool. Let me know down below in the comments. I'd love to chat about it. I honestly just can't wait until next week so I can cover some other series. That'll be it for today. If you like this video, please pound that thumbs up button. Share this video with your social media addicted pals. If you're looking for written reviews, you can find them on mlmillerwrites.com. That's where you can also find the countdown for my Best in Horror, which is going to be running all month through October. Don't forget I have 2 new horror comic book trade paperbacks you should look for. Grave Trenches is out right now in all comic shops, and Pirouette collecting never-before-published issues will be out in late November, early December. Diamond order code APR 201712. And be sure to subscribe to this channel and ring that bell for alerts to be the first to see my future videos. Thanks so much for your time, and take care.
You're doomed to live the life you're meant to be, stuck inside your